So personally for me, and this is helpful, especially like when I'm filled with like a lot of anxiety. Of course, I pray. And I also, and it'll be very interesting to see if other people do this as well, but I like to watch videos about the universe,
Okay, meaning.
just like describing how large the universe is compared to, like how small Earth is. And for some reason, it just makes my current situation seem smaller. My issues and, my current even life is not at the center of the universe. It puts everything in perspective and it calms me down and just gives this idea that like even my problems here on earth are sacred because it's never going to leave this planet.
If I had to answer the question, I would say that I'm about to sound like a drama queen, but when I've really reached a place where I'm fed up, especially in college, oh my God, I will just throw myself on my bed and cry and scream and like get that energy out.
Yes.
And usually I just kind of exhaust myself. I do a lot of writing. I think writing it down, everything I'm feeling, and then like revisiting it, like rereading it, it's almost like it provides some like distance between me and the feelings so that I can like see it clearly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I used to just eat my feelings. I don't do that so much anymore. But I do sit sometimes and think, okay, like, am I hungry? Or like, am I tired? Am I hungry? Do I need rest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's one of those three things. And then obviously sometimes there actually are like real difficulties. And then other times I'll sit in silence and just kind of go outside and take a walk, or like I work full time. So like some days I'll tell my boss like, hey, I'm feeling stifled energy. I gotta go. I gotta go to Piedmont Park. And I'll go to the park at like 2 or 3 and then just like walk around, and then I feel much better. So those are kind of my resources.
It's kind of interesting, especially like the first idea you have of saying like you just throw yourself on the bed and like get the energy out. For me personally, like I've always been afraid to do that. And it was always because I didn't want to disturb someone else in the room. And it's just like the idea of like holding the energy in because you don't want to show weakness or even just like be a burden to anyone else, because someone downstairs might hear you. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what section would I put that under?
I feel like maybe that's like an intersectional thing, like being Black, you feel like you can't really have a softness, but then also being a woman, we're taught to like not make other people uncomfortable, like
right,
shrink yourself down and
don't show yourself having a mental breakdown.
Don't be dramatic, this and that. So I feel like it's probably a twofold thing. But then that kind of goes into the question of like one of our other conversation questions of like, what burdens or shame do you hold that doesn't actually belong to you?
It does. Yeah. It's kind of like the idea of you have to represent your people or represent your race or your culture. It's like, don't make us look bad, and so even though we all go through these emotions, it's like I have to, even in my like quiet space, in my own space, I still have to present myself well. It's kind of interesting, now thinking about it, because I could be in a room where no one else is there and I still won't like make noise or be myself, because just the fear that somebody else is always watching or listening.
Like that ain't good. Yeah, and I don't know how to I think it's just sometimes I accept that some of those types of things, I also think those things in my head are just like things I'm gonna have to like battle for like my entire life.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm just like, I'm exhausted. I can't care that much anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And to the point where you talk about like zooming out to think about the universe, I think about that, but in terms of like history, known history, like, you know, women in the 1800s, especially being a Black woman, like the expectations and stuff it's just so like, I'm sure people back then cared so much about what other people thought, and especially like, you know, when you think about like the 1900s and things like that. And I'm just like, when you zoom forward 100 years, even like 100 years from now, like people aren't necessarily going to care in the grand scheme of things. So why do I care now?
Exactly. Yeah. Or like how big is this situation in the future? You know, is this even going to be something that I remember? Which solutions do you use now?
I think the solutions that I use now, the most recently has been kind of a variation of throwing myself on my bed and crying is because I can't do it at my office desk, you know, like that's kind of crazy. Yeah. I actually make a list of I actually name it, and it's every few months, maybe like once a quarter, when I feel like my anxiety building. I make a list of and I title it a list of my fears and anxieties, and I write down everything that's stressing me out, everything that's like in the back, like every single thing. It can be something like, I'm nervous about this aspect of my business, or it can be, I'm anxious because I still haven't renewed my passport. Big fact. And I write it all down, and then I check off. I literally review my list, and I'm like, which of these is actually my problem, and which of these is something that I can control and what I can't control. And at the end of reviewing, I like circle which ones I can control, and then I make like an action plan. That's how I do it.
Oh, I love how like you think through your thoughts, because just the idea of like everything needs order, or it has order, and really when you go through it and process it, is not as bad as, you know, we portray it to be. It's kind of like taking small steps to get to a solution. And that could be even like internal as well. Yeah, I may try that.
You should. I literally was listening to a podcast yesterday. I can't remember which one it was, but someone had said that someone else they had talked to said that your brain isn't for storage necessarily. It's supposed to be for processing.
Oh.
So like anything, which is why I like cling to my notebooks. That looks crazy.
Look how neat, nice and neat.
And now I use this calendar, or like put things in your phone, because a lot of times when you're holding all of your thoughts and stuff in your mind, it just builds up the anxiety. And sometimes it's not necessarily because you can't handle those difficulties of life. Sometimes it may be because you're trying to hold it all in your mind, when your mind's not necessarily supposed to hold everything. Obviously, you're supposed to hold memories, but stress and stuff like that, you know, I've just tried to get it out and onto paper so I can read back and process that way.